The interwar years in Central Europe again become dominated by the territorial distinctions that happen from, or that are confirmed by, this Paris Peace Treaty. The Treaty of Saint-Germain, this is the part of the treaty that is for the Austrian territories. Austria becomes this little tiny rump nation of generally German speakers, and they had wished to be united with Germany at the conclusion of World War I. That was denied to them in the treaty. The Treaty of Trianon is the treaty that determines what happens to Hungary, and Hungary loses 2/3 of its territory and much of its population to neighboring states. What does the map of Central and Eastern Europe look like during this time period? It looks very similar to, and much of it is very similar to the way it looks today. During this time period, the Russian Empire has been dismantled, so there is the Baltic nations of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. There is Germany that has Prussian territory still in the Baltic region. There is a Poland, which is a large state in this region at the time period, and re-emerged in Poland for the first time since the 18th century. There is a Ukraine for a short period that's then going to be put under the new emerging Soviet Union. Czechoslovakia is one nation during this time period, not split. There's this very small Hungary. There is an enlarged Romania, and Romania becomes one of the larger states of this time period. And France sees them as wanting to have a larger region here and having a friend in Romania. There's a strong Romanian Parisian connection. In the south, we first have the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. A few years later, that name is going to be changed to Yugoslavia, which means South Slavs. And so this region has, again, these small, weak states. As I said in the last section, they need to look to Germany for trade, especially in trade. Their leading partner is Germany, and Germany is going to make all these deals with the region that they will buy agricultural products only from these people if they buy German manufactured goods. And so there's this lopsided trade happening in the interwar years, and there's emerging ideologies and doctrines that are going to be in competition during this time period. In the east is the new communist nation of the Soviet Union, which is trying to exert force on its western neighbors, which is Central Europe. And there is emerging right-wing fascist nations. You have Italy and Germany leading the ideology and also trying to exert influence on the region. Both Italy and Germany are revanchists. This means they want to change the territories. They want to change the boundaries. And within Central Europe, every single nation that I just listed also wants to change their boundaries. They all say, look, in my neighboring nation, there are this minority population of such and such. So the Hungarians look north and say, look, there's Hungarians in the Slovakian region of Czechoslovakia. There's Hungarians in the Romanian region, and they had longed for the Transylvanian region. In the south, they say this new kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. They're dominating the Magyar population. Every single nation is concerned. This is the #1 domestic policy issue: how to redraw the boundaries. And it's not surprising when Germany as it emerges as a new power in this area, is going to also be discussing this and also going to handle the divisions that are going to happen. We all think that Germany is punished during the war. There's a promise of being punished possibly in the treaty, but it never comes to fruition. And Germany is going to reemerge as a strong power very quickly. The Depression is going to affect all of Central and Eastern Europe, and it's going to bring a rise of right-wing radicals like Hitler. But by the time Hitler is in power, in the late 30s, Germany has reemerged as a strong industrialized nation. And it is not in a bad economic situation in the late 30s. In fact, it's in a power position. And it's power position to control these weak areas. So they're going to first unite with Austria. It's going to be called the Anschluss, which Germany basically forces upon Austria. But there's a large pro-Nazi population in Austria, which is often kind of hidden even today that was the case. And then in 1938, under the Munich Conference, the Western powers trying to control this German influence in the region is going to let them break up the only democratic nation, Czechoslovakia, and they're going to take much of the Czech lands, and they're going to have these Vienna Awards. And the Vienna Awards are basically looking for friendship within the region to redraw boundaries, to create allies. Hungarians will regain much of their lost territory in Slovakia and in that Transylvanian region. And Slovakia is going to emerge as a puppet German state with a quasi-Catholic priest leadership. It's a very kind of bizarre history there. And Hungary is going to be allied with the Nazi regime because they regained territory. There's going to be the eventual dismantling of Poland again, between the two powers that used to control it, the Germans and the Russians. You remember in 18th century, Poland is partitioned by these powers. They're going to be partitioned again when World War I begins. Hitler invades Poland in September of 1939 after having an agreement, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, to divide these lands. World War I begins. World War I ends without these issues being rectified. World War II is Germany's attempt to redraw the map of Central and Eastern Europe along with the Soviet Union to basically, in many ways, reestablish old empires. Of course, there's other parts of the agenda, and the parts of the agenda are to create a German leadership in these Nazi-controlled areas. And they do this by dismantling local populations' professional and intellectual leadership. They do this by killing them generally. And when the Germans invade Poland, they decapitate the intellectual community, the teachers, the university professors, the politicians by murder. They're also going to try and unite the German populations throughout Central Europe. Hitler is going to claim that they were all, this united, that this was truly German lands to begin with, because there was German populations throughout Central and Eastern Europe. He was going to finally unite them because this was their destiny and such. And there's going to be a lot of local support of local Germans, in Romania and Hungary and in Poland and other places to have this new empire, this Nazi empire, to champion them. And of course, part of this equation is to destroy the competition in terms of commerce. And that's going to be the Jews of this area, and with Hitler's pathological dislike and desire to destroy the entire Jewish population of Eastern Europe.